So, adjectives and adjective clauses, you can make this one long note page and decide what you need to write down in terms of the adjective part. You might already know this, but I can only teach this to you if we have the building blocks of understanding what adjectives are. So, again, if you want to write this down, you can. If you know this already, you do not need to. Adjectives describe, which is modify, a noun or a pronoun. So, if we look down here, the red dress looked stunning on her. Dress is a noun. Red is describing what the color of the dress was. And the is an article, which we've learned is a type of adjective that tells us which specific dress, the dress. So in this sentence, there are a lot of them. The fluffy white cat sat on the warm, sunny windowsill. All the first three words are describing the cat, and the warm and sunny are describing windowsill. Notice we have that comma there from the last rule that we learned about coordinate adjectives. So that comma is there because these could be switched and the order doesn't matter, or we could say the fluffy and white cat, right? You can put an and in there. That's how you know the comma belongs. Okay, so this is pretty simple. The purpose of doing it is it's much more interesting than just saying the cat sat on the windowsill. By saying fluffy, white, warm, and sunny, it gives us so much more imagery than without adjectives. That's why they're important. Now, there are two special types of adjectives. So obviously, if I jump back really fast, there's a ton of adjectives that just describe nouns, right? They do not have a specific name. There are two special types of adjectives, and this I want you to write down. The first type is an article, which is the, a, or an, and we have learned those before. So that's a review, but I still want you to write it down. The second type of adjective is a participle. So participles end with ing or ed. So they are words that end with ing, like running, or ed, like exhausted, tired. And they describe a noun. Okay, because this is all under the category of adjectives. So I'm just going over two specific types. So pause it if you're not finished writing this down yet. So participle examples. The running water dripped all night. Running is describing water. Water is a noun. Running is describing the water, ends in ing, so this is a participle. The exhausted runner collapsed at the finish line. Runner is a noun. Exhausted is describing the runner, and as a result, it is just an adjective, but because it ends in ing or ed, it is also called a participle, which is just a special type of adjective. So you don't need to have this memorized, but I just want to point out to you that not all ing words are adjectives. Some are nouns, which are called gerunds, which is why our English language gets so complicated. So participles are ing ed words that are adjectives. In this sentence, running is difficult for some people. Running is not describing anything. Running is the noun, the main noun of the sentence, right? So English is all about, and understanding grammar is all about how we use words in a sentence. That's what's important so that we can make our writing better. Okay. So this is just a little side note. Not every ing word is a participle. Sometimes it's a noun. And if an ing word is a noun, it's called a gerund. All right, back to articles and participles. Why are they important? Well, because one, they help make our writing more interesting, but two, they also turn into appositive phrases and participial phrases. And this is the meat of the matter that I really want you to know about. Why? Because these sentences vary our sentence structure and make our writing more beautiful and much more effective. So let's start with an appositive phrase. You've already learned this. I know this is a review. Act as adjectives, always describe a noun. So they often begin with the three words the, a, and an, but they do not have to, but they often do. And there are our, articles. And they're always offset by commas. So not every phrase and clause is offset by commas, but appositive phrases always are because they're interrupting the sentence. You don't need them. So look down here. Jackson, comma, the boy who sits in the third row, comma, won a scholarship to his top college. So I could remove the highlighted blue part and just say Jackson won a scholarship to his top college, right? It begins with the, It is describing Jackson. It is right next to the word Jackson, which is a noun. So this whole thing, the boy who sits in the third row, is acting as a giant adjective describing a noun, Jackson. Can we remove it from the sentence and it makes sense? Absolutely. Jackson won a scholarship to his top college. That is why you offset it by commas. It's not essential, it's just helpful. Next, we have participial phrases. They're very similar to how appositive phrases work, but they always act as adjectives and always describe a noun. But they begin with ing or ed words, and they're always offset by commas. So, pretty similar to appositives. They act as adjectives. They always describe a noun. Whoops, same as appositives. Always offset by commas, same as appositives. The difference is these begin with an ing or ed word. So having what? Having finished their chores, comma. By finding the ing word at the beginning and asking what or how or when about it, and it finishes your thought, that's how you know the end of your phrase. Having what? Having finished their chores, comma. The children went outside to play. My simple sentence is, the children went outside to play. I could have said, the children finished their chores, period. Then they went outside to play, period. But that is getting us back into that very simple, choppy sentences. Good for effect sometimes, but not to use all the time. Varying sentences with phrases and clauses is way better. So let's do the next one. Exhausted from the long journey, the travelers settled into their cozy inn. Exhausted from what? Exhausted from the long journey, comma, the travelers settled in. Who was exhausted? The travelers were. That's why it's right after. Who finished their chores? The children. That's why this phrase is right next to the children. This phrase, exhausted from the long journey, is right next to the travelers. But I can remove both of those things in bold and still have a simple sentence. The children went outside to play. The travelers finally settled into their cozy inn. So they're not essential, but they make the sentence more interesting. So participial phrases can be at the beginning, the middle, or the end of a sentence. The rule is, and I want you to write this down, they must be close, usually next to the noun they are describing. So here's one we just looked at. Having finished their chores, comma, who finished the chores? The children. The children went outside to play. I could also put it after the children. The children, comma, having finished their chores, comma, went outside to play. Both work because this they are describing and they are next to the children. Now it's your turn. At the bottom of your notes, write your own sentences with a participial phrase. So I want you to underline the participial phrase and draw an arrow to the noun it is describing. For instance, like here, having finished their chores. This is my participial phrase, so I will underline it. Who finished their chores? The children. Draw an arrow to the noun it is describing. Went outside to play. Do not write my sentence. Write your own sentence. Okay, that's it. And I hope this makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions.